Cool. Well, my name is Nancy Patton. I work for Public Service Credit Union, and I'm part of the group of credit unions that presents these personal financial education classes at libraries. So in Fort Collins tonight, we're talking about ID theft. And I do want to stress that we're going to talk about ways to maximize your knowledge about the topic so that you can minimize your risk, but we can never avoid being at risk completely. So we're just going to try to be as safe as we can. So the things that we're planning to talk about tonight is how to decrease your risk of being a victim and how to increase your knowledge of the methods that the fraudsters use. And then I am going to be sure to challenge you with some action steps at the end, some handouts that you can take home and start implementing the things you've learned. All right. I love it when you ask questions and love it when we talk about what you're concerned about. So we'll plan on that unless we start running way behind on time. Okay. So what do these companies have in common?
They've been hacked.
Yeah, they sure have been hacked. There's all kinds of things on there. Department of Justice, medical groups. Equifax, of course, was the big deal last year in 2017. Just an astounding number of people impacted by the Equifax breach. I guess that's why I have it on there twice. I didn't notice that. And places. But the point is, unless we live under a rock, we can't avoid running in where identity theft is possible. So one of the trends I think we're seeing is that, so you said, Department of Justice and IRS being less of a target for what you're looking for, except that they're getting socials now instead of getting credit card numbers. Mm-hmm. And so the early hacks, the early breaches were concerned with getting somebody's card number. Well, the later breaches are more concerned about getting your information. And so we'll talk in a second about what they're doing with that. Have you ever heard of a FULS?
No.
Have you heard of the dark web?
No.
I've heard of reference, but
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
So the dark web is where the bad guys sell all the information they've gathered about you. And they get your information in a wide variety of ways, but they can put together a full package of information about you and turn around and sell it. And they'll put together, hey, I have 25 great social security numbers. I have 100 credit card numbers where the income for these people is all over, $80,000. They put together packages of information and sell it. Okay? Any idea how much it costs to buy this full package of information? $25.
Wow.
Yeah. There's so much information out there about us, and the cost is so cheap that we're just going to be as smart as we can. We're going to do the best we can to not be victimized. But if somebody really wants your stuff, they probably can go get it. Passport information sells for about $1,000. Okay, driver's license is less than the 25, so just individual pieces of this cost less than the full package, but the information is for sale, absolutely. Okay. These are the latest numbers. This was from 2017, just released by Javelin in 2018, in February of 2018. So in 2017, 16.7 million people in the United States affected by identity theft, by fraud. So why do you suppose 47% out of all the fraud that happens across the world, 47% of the fraud happens in the US? Why would that be? We have money, we have computers, and a lot of times I think we're impulsive and kind of stupid. So the fact is that, we have money, so we're a target. And another trend that's happening is something called card not present fraud. Card not present fraud is when a purchase is made using your card number, but the card's not physically there. So that happens online, and that happens over the phone, where someone is buying things using your number that they've stolen, and they do not have the actual card. Okay? Now, why would that be growing? Because It used to be they would infect the point of sale, the machine that read your stripe. Well, now they've replaced those with chip readers. Chip readers are safer. So the bad guys have gone to where it's easier to get your information, and that's online and on the phone instead of at the machine that reads your card while you're standing there with the card. So does that make sense? That they've shifted their tactics because we've shifted and moved to chips. Okay? There's something else called account takeover, which I think is named poorly. But account takeover is where they're taking your information. They're not taking your current accounts. They're taking your social, your address, your birthday, and they're opening new accounts. And so then they're able to make purchases and do things, but they're not stealing your existing card numbers or your existing bank account number. They're opening all new stuff. And interestingly enough, they call that account takeover. And that's a new trend going on. So the question was about, is there still fraud happening with existing accounts? Yes, absolutely. They get your information and they take money out of your existing account. All financial institutions are extremely concerned about this. So there's a bunch of things in place to prevent that. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's much harder to get into your accounts from your phone or from your laptop. Now you have to go through a second layer of security. They're asking more questions. If you call up on the phone and try to do things, they're going to ask you a series of questions. They're not going to ask you one thing. They're going to go through a bunch of stuff making sure it's you. There are a lot of things you can't do, like online. You can't change your address and then have a new card mailed to you. There are protocols in place that stop all of that from happening. All of the financial institutions that issue credit cards or debit cards have fraud protections in place where they're looking for unusual activity. So have you ever gotten the call that says something's, yeah. So definitely there is monitoring going on all the time, okay? And that monitoring is looking for unusual behavior. The other thing you can do on your accounts, you can set up alerts. So if there's a transaction over $500, send me a text. All of those kinds of things, more and more and more opportunities for you to know something weird's going on, okay? And you mentioned FDIC, and I have to clarify that. That's an insurance if a bank fails. The same thing is in place with credit unions. Okay, but that is insurance if an institution fails. And so it really doesn't have anything to do with identity theft. Okay. If you do have identity theft on a credit card or a debit card, there is a dispute process and you need to get going on that. You can't wait forever. We'll talk about some things related to that in a bit. We were on the fact that Equifax put the information for 145 million people out there. Just huge, just absolutely game-changing as far as there's so much information out there. People are very angry about Equifax. So I honestly, as part of our credit score class, I used to recommend that people use Equifax to do their check, see what their score was, and I've stopped. But people are still using Equifax for the data. They still collect the data. I also was hit. I was part of it. I did get an alert through my, the free monitoring that they put in place. I got an alert recently, and so I was pleased that I got the alert, but it was related to the fact that I had a change in something on my credit, and it was safe. It was fine. I knew about it, but in fact, it did kick in and tell me there's something you should look at. So yay, at least for me, it worked. Everybody's updating security. So whether it's a prepaid card, a rebate card, all of that stuff, the IRS is asking for all refunds, all information to be filed electronically. It's so much safer than paper. Just everywhere you turn, everyone is looking at how can we make this safer. Yeah. But now the downside of that is it's more complicated. It's more steps for us. But keep in mind the end goal is increased safety. So this is something we mentioned earlier when we were talking about social security numbers and credit card numbers. Actually, there just was a change in 2017 where the breaches that are happening, for the first time, they were more focused on social security numbers than on credit card numbers. So again, people are more interested in knowing what's your information. I'm going to go open a new account. I'm going to go get a card and buy things with it. I'm going to go get a car loan because I have your information. Not so much, here's a credit card number so I can go shopping. Okay, so just a change in what's going on. These guys change their tactics all the time depending on what protections we put in place. They adapt to that. I thought this was ridiculous, but last year there were a mere 50-something% of consumers who were worried about, concerned about identity theft. Now we're up to 69% of us are worried. Seems to me that 99% of us would be worried about this, but anyway, that statistic did go up. Let's talk just a little bit about who's vulnerable. Well, we all are. There are certain groups of people that are a little more at risk. I think it's interesting, students are one of them, and I would guess that's because students tend to get distracted. There's a lot going on in their lives, they're busy, they maybe just aren't as experienced with things. Smartphone users, I taught this class last night, had somebody who's not a smartphone user, so she's in a little safer group because she doesn't use the smartphone. Anybody who's been a breach victim, and then seniors, the whole senior crowd is susceptible for a wide variety of reasons, unfortunately. It really makes us angry. Then the concept here, of course, is since we're all vulnerable, the more we know, the better we can do to be safe. Thieves tend to be lazy. They're going to go to an easier victim. So let's send them to somebody else instead of us. I thought this was fascinating. Offline consumers have less risk of fraud, but they lose more money. So if I am not online, if I'm not doing online banking, I'm not using my smartphone, so in other words, I'm offline. Why would I lose more money? Yes, you're correct. That's because they're not getting alerts, they're not checking their accounts, not looking for updates on a daily or weekly basis. They're waiting for something to come in the mail 30, 35, 40 days after an incident happened. So again, the alerts are a nice way to do that, where you can set it up to say, okay, let me know anytime more than $1,000. So the question was, or the comment was that checking all of these things we have going on more often than once a month is a pain. Yeah. I find it interesting. There is also a trend in the world of consumers now that we're blaming others. We're saying, financial institutions, why aren't you doing this? Equifax, how dare you? You know, this company why wasn't your security better? You got hacked. So we're tired of having to go through extra steps. Tired of having to be vigilant all the time. Tired of having to go and check all of this stuff and going through 5 passwords or security questions to get in there to check it. Yep, there is anger around the topic. Right, so the alerts are a great solution. The comment was that alerts are easy to set up, which is true. They're easy to change. So if you started with a $50 thing and your phone's going bing all the time, change it to $100, you know, that you're getting notified. So there was a question about account takeover, which is opening new accounts in your name and you're not aware of it. And how can you watch for that? So yes, getting our credit reports is one way to watch for that. We get one free report every year, so that's a little trickier. We can stagger them. So you could get a TransUnion and then 3 months later get your Equifax, 3 months later get your Experian, which would mean that every 3 months you were checking to see if anything had been opened. The other thing is you should, at some point, if somebody's doing something fraudulently, somehow they're going to tell you, hey, you haven't paid your bill. And so then that's when you know that something's gone wrong. No, it's at this point, the credit report is the way. So the question is about, shouldn't the bureaus be checking with us before anybody can open anything up? So you can set a credit freeze. A credit freeze means that no one can access your account or can access your credit, can open new things unless there is a verification done that it's you. The challenge with doing a credit freeze is that if you're still active in the credit world in any way, then every time you want to do something like get a cell phone, get an apartment, get a car loan, you have to lift the freeze and then you have to reinstate it. It's free to put the freeze on, it's free to lift it, but it costs money to reinstate it. There's also a time delay. So if you're standing at Verizon and have waited 3 hours in order to talk to the nice person and find out that your cell phone is now ready to go, except they can't get to pull your credit because you have a freeze on it. Okay? So there is a mechanism in place. It's just awkward. I do recommend it if there's anyone in your life who is past the using credit thing. They're not going to go get a car loan. They're done with cell phones. If you have a parent or somebody, put a freeze on, and I'll have a handout at the end that talks you through how to do the freeze and why you would or wouldn't. But those people, then no one can use their social information. So the question was about other credit bureaus besides the big three related to a more regional action or that kind of activity.
Credit freeze won't.
It wouldn't hit. You have to put a freeze with each bureau, okay? And then no one really uses other bureaus. That's the, our lenders, that's,
I would guess that.
yeah, they really are the ones that everybody uses, are the big three. All right, let's talk a little bit about just some basics related to fraud and identity theft, which is my fraud person at the credit union, the lady who goes to court and takes the bad guys down. She always says, when you're distracted, they're attracted. So whether that's leaving your purse in the shopping cart while you squeeze cantaloupes, or whatever it is that has you not thinking about where's your information, that's a bad place to be. So basic alertness, basic attentiveness is advised. It is extremely unfortunate but very true that many of the victims know who took their stuff. Tons of family theft. With the older crowd, there's a lot of caretaker theft. So someone who's been trusted to be a caretaker in the home for an older person is the one who's taking the money, taking over the accounts. So they're just be safe. Where are you keeping your information at home? Do you have an active family? Are there kids in and out? And you don't know all those kids, and you left all your passwords sitting by the computer, you left your debit card on the table. Where is your stuff? Just be very aware. Then closely related to that is what's in your wallet. Doesn't need to be there. If you have 5 credit cards, that's fine, but if you only use one of them regularly, leave the other 4 at home unless you're going to go do something with that one particular credit card. So the comment is about babysitters, which is just, absolutely. Everyone who's in your home, right now we have hardly anybody over and my dog hasn't learned how to read, so it's fairly safe. But we just need to know if anybody comes in the house, the cleaning people, all that stuff. And there's, all kinds of frauds where they distract you at the front door and somebody else goes in, all of those stories. Where's your stuff? Is it nice and safe? Have you noticed the car registrations now come with one half that has your address on and one half that does not have your address on it? The theory behind that is that you would put inside your car the registration that doesn't show your address. If someone steals your car, theoretically, they don't know where you live. Okay? I'm going to say all the theoretical things. There's lots and lots of other ways to look you up and find where you live, but it might slow them down, and why make it easy for them? So put the car registration in your vehicle that doesn't have your address on it. We're going to talk real quick about some mail stuff. I still see people in my neighborhood, it drives me absolutely crazy, who put mail out with a clothespin or put the little flag up. Okay? Please, please, please send your mail in a secure way. Do not clip it to the front of your house. Mail theft still happens. Absolutely. People go up and down neighborhoods looking for anything they can take from the front of a house. Please send mail safely. Please receive mail safely. And then shred your documents. Okay, there's most financial institutions have a shred bin in the lobby. And they would love it if you brought in your little stack of envelopes that you've been saving or papers and throw it in the shred bin. If you end up with a garage full of stuff because you've inherited a garage full of paperwork, find a shred event and get those documents shredded. In general, if it has anything sensitive, social address, credit card numbers, the offers that come in the mail for credit cards now, they don't just have the page where you fill the information in and mail it back. They just have a code. So now you have to shred the whole thing. So look carefully at those credit card offers. Make sure you're shredding them because now they come just with a code, and that would be enough to account takeover, open something new. So it depends a little bit. Like we have opted out of a lot of stuff, but I still get credit card offers partly because these companies are related. So if I have a card with Citibank and they want to do more business with me because I'm an existing customer, they have a right to send me some things. So opting out of mail will eliminate some of it. And then there is an actual opt-out of credit card offers as well. I have a handout at the end. It tells you how to opt out of the mail, okay? We'll tell you how to, all those places. Speaking of opting out, the same piece of paper I'm going to give you at the end of the presentation has how to opt out of the phone calls. I cannot stress enough, don't answer. Don't answer. Don't play games. Don't think you can fool them. Don't think you can outsmart them, okay? Yes, please, don't play games with them. Just don't answer. Keep in mind that with a phone call, you're always, if the call came in, you don't want to give them any information. If you made the call out, if you've looked at the number on your statement and you've researched you're calling a good place, that's fine. But an incoming call is never safe. They can fake phone numbers. Don't trust what you see on caller ID. Just because it says 970 or 303, it does not mean it is a local call. They could be sitting in Jamaica and are using a phone number that has been faked to show it being local. So I've done this myself, where something didn't feel right. I called back. I looked up the number myself and said, hey, I'm done, goodbye. And then I called in to see what the situation was. So anything else on phones, just don't do it. A big scam lately has been your own phone number calling you. And people are curious and pick up. Okay? Don't fall for it. Somebody's scamming you. And the IRS does not call. The IRS does not text. The IRS does not communicate with you any other way besides snail mail. And then once they've established a case number, there may be an agent or something, but you will not get a call from the IRS. That is an archaic phone, but I actually loved the red. I picked it for the red. And I was watching some old movie the other night, and they dial phone, and I about lost it. It was hysterical. Okay, let's talk about some stuff going on in the world of electronics, computers, cell phones, all of that good stuff. There is something called a keylogger. Anybody know what a keylogger is, besides reading it on the page? So a keylogger tracks what you type. Every single thing you type is tracked. Sometimes it's a little hardware device that's attached to a computer, and then the bad guy comes back later and takes it off the computer and has a record of everything you've typed. Sometimes it's malware, so it's a program that's been downloaded on your computer, and that's tracking everything you type. So when you go into your financial accounts, it knows you typed your username, you typed your password, you answered the security question. Okay? All of that is a keylogger. Some things you can do to avoid that are to avoid public computers. So as much as I love the library, not checking your financial accounts when you're at the library. Never click on unknown links. That's how, so unknown, no clicking, no clicky. We'll say that about 20 times tonight. That's how the malware gets put on your own computer. It's a technique that's been around for a while and still gets used. So the comment was about keyloggers tracking PIN numbers on ATMs. And I haven't heard it talked about that way. I've heard cameras picking up the PIN entry.
Yes.
And then the skimmer is what is reading your Stripe information. A skimmer at this point can't read a chip, but it reads, because chips, all they do is electronically generate encryption. It's kind of funky. But the stripe information is still on our cards, right? We still have cards that have both the chip and the stripe. So the bad guys are not stupid. They go to places that still read the stripe, which are ATMs and gas pumps. Because those items are expensive to replace, there is a delay in the date when those things are supposed to be fixed and updated to chip. So you'll start seeing some chip ATMs and start seeing some chip gas pumps, but right now we really don't see that. Very few of those out there. I taught this class recently and I said, hey, one of the things you can do on a gas pump is look for the security tape. Have you seen that? Like red tape or yellow tape, and it shows that no one has removed the front of the machine and put a skimmer on. Next time you're pumping gas, look and see if you see the security tape. It's not on all the gas pumps. And then my fraud person informed me that they've found a way to fake the tape. So it's really not even safe to count on the tape, but it's one more thing we can do. Look and make sure the tape hasn't been cut, that kind of stuff. The other trick that is related to avoiding skimmers, some of it is that nothing should move. ATMs are not designed to be wiggly, so nothing should move. And then use the same ones. Go to the same ATMs, go to the same gas pumps, because you'll get a gut feeling for how it's supposed to feel or how it's supposed to look. You push your card in and it sticks today, and it never sticks other times. Okay, you see what I mean with the familiarity will just give you a gut feeling about maybe there's something wrong today. I wish I could have a great answer on that. There's also a handheld skimmer. So it is possible that if you hand your card over to a waitress, they will go to the back, run the card in the machine to pay for your dinner, but they will also run it through the skimmer that they hold in their pocket and sell that information. So handheld skimmers also exist. As Stripe goes away, this will be less effective, but for right now, it's still there. Everybody's heard of phishing. The concept behind phishing is that there's some communication sent out. Could be an email, it could be a text, but the point is I'm going to send out information to a whole bunch of people, and hopefully somebody will bite and send back something so that I can communicate with them. I can download bad stuff. I can do something because you reply to me. Spamming is with email. Spimming is instant message. Smishing is text. Spear phishing is when they target a particular person. So I have a colleague. He used to work at a different organization. And someone targeted the finance officer at that company. And she, because it sounded all urgent, and it sounded like it came from the CEO of the company, she sent the bad guys all their socials. Yeah, so that would have been spear phishing. They figured out, you're the finance person, you have socials, you're the HR person, whatever. And they target you instead of the mass email. So that's spear phishing. Catfishing is fake profiles. So I'm really 60 years old, but I put up a profile that I'm 25 and gorgeous, and then the conversation, we were talking a little bit about this before class, the conversation goes, oh, I'm out of money, send me money, okay? But yeah, you're creating something that is not true, pretending to be someone else. So a text came to this gentleman, and it was legitimate from his credit card company, but because it was a text, you were uncomfortable. So it was fraudulent activity on the card, but you didn't trust the communication method, so you found a different way. We want to protect your money. We're financial institutions, we're not bad guys. We want to protect your money. We want you to have your money. But absolutely, there's nothing wrong with being suspicious. Nothing wrong for looking for a different way to verify this information. So for instance, I told you the story about the lady who sent out all the information because she thought the message came from the CEO. If she had called him and said, this seems odd, is this really you asking me to do this? It wouldn't have happened. So this another case where A communication came this time in mail, and it had the logo, and it looked right, sort of, but it didn't feel right. So you go through a second layer of checking exactly the right thing to do, and it turned out it was correct. But oh my gosh, so much better to go through the extra layer of checking. Yeah, frustrating, but so true. All right, phishing. We're going to talk about how not to get phished. Don't click on anything. Don't click on links. Don't click on attachments. Don't click on spreadsheets. Don't click on anything. You can open the email, and that's not going to get you in trouble, but nothing within the email should you click on. If you are getting text messages that are phishing, there is a number, almost all the carriers, the big carriers, you can copy that text message and send it to 7726, which is spam, and they will block that. Okay, so you copy and send it to 7726, and then your carrier will block where that came from. Okay, so unsubscribe can be a trick if it's not something that you are very comfortable that, yes, I did sign up for this email. Yes, this is a legitimate charity sending me this. But if anything were to come in that you were suspicious about the source of the email and there was an unsubscribe, that's where the trick might be. So if you are very comfortable, for instance, I'm going to the Boys and Girls Club breakfast tomorrow. It's very possible that I know I'm on some of their mailing lists. If I were to choose to unsubscribe, I know that I had signed up for that. I know this is legitimate. So just watch for, was it a sketchy thing coming in? Then you don't want to choose the unsubscribe. A lot of things about emails and phishing is, does something make sense, not make sense? Is the grammar poor? Is the time of day? Was it sent at 3 o'clock in the morning? Does it include, if you're working, does it include you and the CEO? Depending on your title, you probably are not in the same email group or conversation with the CEO. So again, verify by some other method. Make a phone call. I actually had this happen to me. Someone I know, his email got hacked. It looked like he sent me an invoice, and I'm thinking I hadn't done business with him. I mean, I know him, and I know he does business, and I clicked on it, and it wasn't him. His email had been hacked. So my protections were in place, and nothing bad happened, but I did a very stupid thing. I opened that attachment, and I should not have. So in this case, the fraudulent caller gave a place to check for safety, and that's where the person checked was what the fraudulent person told them. Well, that's not going to help. Do your own checking for authenticity. Don't follow what they say. Does everybody know that you can put your mouse over a link, the bubble will pop up, and it will show the destination of the link? Okay, so this doesn't work on a phone. It has to be on a PC. But if you put your mouse over the link, so it's a shipping link, your package is tracking package, and you put your mouse over that, there will be a bubble that pops up, and it will tell you the destination, the website URL, all where it's really going to go. Because you can make that say anything. I can make it say shipping, and you put it over it, and in fact, it's going to some Russian website. Okay, so .ru at the end is Russia. So don't click on anything .ru, and there's some other country codes that you can watch out for. But so put your mouse over it, watch the balloon pop up, and that will tell you the true destination of, if you click, that's where you're going to go. How many are on social media doing the Facebook thing? Got at least a couple? Yeah, so everything we put out there is liftable. If you put a photo out, someone can take that photo and use it. One of the things that's a common way for people to be socially engineered or that kind of thing, where you're trying to build confidence and then be given money, is being friended. And it's, you just clicked on, yeah, sure, I'll friend you, and you don't know them. So make sure you know all your friends. Get rid of people you don't know if you in the past clicked on them. Sometimes you get a fake invite, somebody's been hacked. And so if you already were friends with somebody and you get an invite, you don't want to accept that because somebody probably has created a new profile. It was strongly suggested you not log into other sites using your Facebook login. Do you know how that's an option often?
Yeah.
Log in through Facebook. Don't. Log in individually. Don't log in with your Facebook credentials. And then, of course, they're using it. You've all seen the ads where the bad guy breaks into the house because on Facebook they said they were going to Hawaii for 3 weeks. Okay, people actually do crimes because of that kind of information, so save your photos till you're back. It also can be a source of password information, security question information. If your Facebook site is full of your dog's name, how many of us use our dog's name in our passwords, that kind of thing. So the tip is there another way to share the information? Is there a Dropbox that you can put photos in? Can you email directly instead of putting it on Facebook? Can you print them off and send them? You know, is there some other way to share the information, the photos, the invite, the whatever, instead of on Facebook? I'm going to talk through Spoko. There's actually a couple of places that are called reverse white pages, but basically it's a public listing of your information. So I encourage you all to go home and sign on to Spoko and look yourself up and see what's there. So my name is Nancy Patton. I live in Fort Collins. In late 2015, I went on Spoko, and there were actually, I was listed 4 times. There's a couple other Nancy Pattons on there, but I was listed 4 times. So this is all pulled from public information. These are the names of my children. That is true. Those are my children. This is my name. That is my house. All that information is just out there. It's pulled from public records. So there is a way to pull this off of there, to delete yourself. But it's reverse white pages. You can look up phone numbers and find out whose phone number. If you just have a phone number, you can plug a phone number in and see who that's assigned to, that kind of stuff. You can get further information from this if you pay a little money. These things exist. If you want to clean it up, I'll show you how. Just one more thing to be aware of. We wonder how people get all this information. Well, there's just a lot of ways. Yeah, I mean, so you can pay a little $4.95 and learn someone's criminal record. There's all kinds of different information. These used to be more, there used to be more information that was harmful on these, and it's stopped somewhat. But okay, so that was my listing in November of 2015. Just a couple weeks later, because I had gone in and pulled my information, opted out of it, I was gone. And I did check a month ago, and I'm still gone, still not there. All right, so the question is about Social Security numbers, the Larimer County Assessor's Office, and I do not have an answer. So I am not personally aware of the situation, and there's, I guess you can call your friends at the county office.
It was a newspaper.
Okay, so I'm going to assume if it made the newspaper, it also got fixed on the other end.
Hopefully. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that particular situation. We're going to talk a little bit about computers and about phones, just basic stuff. I bet you've heard this before. Be sure to use all your security stuff. Update, 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 update. If they send you an update, do the update. The reason they're sending you an update is there was some kind of problem discovered, and they're trying to fix the problem. So do your updates. Public access through places like coffee shops is not safe. It is a public network. If you have the right equipment and it fits in a backpack or a large purse and you sit within 30 feet and hang out for a while, you can pick up all of the things that are going on across. You can intercept all of the information being sent across those networks. So if I go to a coffee shop and hang out, it's fine if I'm going to check the restaurant menu, movie times, but I do not want to check my financial accounts. Okay? And let's, again, just no links, no nothing. Don't click on anything. Disposing of old computers, make sure whoever you're electronically recycling with is safe and reputable. And the financial accounts on public access or public computers is not suggested if you can possibly do that safely at home. That's better.
Just a-
So the challenge with all of that stuff is that they make it look, so they say hotel Wi-Fi, and that's really not, but they've created a spot, you've connected to it, and now the information is going through through them. Yeah, there's pineapple, there's man in the middle, these are all schemes using very simple equipment
Exactly.
and relatively inexpensive. So again, everything you can do, if you're going to do sensitive information, make sure you're on a secure network. One tip that was told to me a long time ago now is that if you log into anything, log out. So even if I log into my library account, I've trained myself to log out of my library account. Okay, you're just not leaving anything open. Okay, log in, log out. Let's talk about phones. Phones are computers. And so we're going to password protect. Please, 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 please password protect your phone so that if it gets picked up, somebody can't just get into it. Some places do the draw a pattern, some places have biometrics with a thumbprint, some are a numbered password. Do a password. Password protect your phone. I don't know anyone that will let you save financial passwords, but for some reason, if you ever are given the chance to save a password that's related to finances, please don't. Again, don't click on anything. Again, do update, particularly with phones. We'll see updates come pretty frequently. There are fake apps out there. Make sure you're getting an app from the real store. Make sure you're purchasing the correct app. If you know, some of it is reading the reviews, but if you go to your iTunes, do you have an iPhone? Yeah.
Like the App Store.
You actually go to the App Store, and it should be vetted before it gets into the App Store. Although I've heard about a couple recently, the cryptocurrencies, and I do not want to get into the cryptocurrency discussion, but I've heard about some cryptocurrency apps that turned out to be fake and a scam, and they actually had made it onto the App Store. So you can look at reviews, you can look at stars to see if they're reviewed positively, you can look to see how long it's been there. If it's brand new and only 3 people have ever signed up for it, I probably wouldn't choose it. Ratings, is this been rated 5 stars or 3 stars or, yeah. But basically, just be sure you're getting the real app. And then Bluetooth is just like all these other things we've talked about with coffee shops and that kind of thing. Bluetooth makes you a live network. So if you're walking around with your Bluetooth on all the time, someone can intercept that. We're going to encourage you to turn off Bluetooth unless you're actively using it, which I'm bad. If anybody's a scammer in the room tonight, I forgot to turn my Bluetooth off. So as far as I have heard, I've not heard of anyone being given a fake update on the phone. Now, one of the things you can do if you want to go through an extra step, all of that stuff gets talked about out on the web. So you honestly could go, if it's saying update available, and if you look, it should tell you which one it is, 10 point whatever. You can go to your laptop, put in iPhone 5 update 10.2, what's new, something, and you'll get all kinds of conversation about what it's trying to do, if there's any issues, that kind of thing. So again, that independent verification, if there's any doubt in your mind. But I have not heard about that. Who knows? They'll think of that next time. There's some things we want to talk about passwords. Passwords are a current line of defense, and they're a really poor line of defense. Passwords just are bad. Okay, people do bad things with passwords. We reuse them. So you're not supposed to do these things. You're not supposed to reuse them. You're not supposed to use dictionary words. You're not supposed to use the number substitutions. Can anybody read what this one is?
Easy for you to see.
Yeah, easy for anybody else to hack. Okay, the hacking programs know all of those things. Short passwords are bad. Anything that includes sensitive information is bad. So just saying, all of these things are frowned upon. Don't do them. I have to tell you, don't do them. Most of us do some version of this, but I would like to challenge you to think about things related to passwords more in the line of this. This one actually has meaning. Does anybody know what this meaning is? I took the phrase, "My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty," and plugged it into 1776. So I could remember that, okay? But it's nonsense unless I've told you where that came from. It uses letters, numbers, symbols, capital, lowercase. It's long. So is there some phrase or something you could do to create a password that was nonsense, except to you, that was memorable to you? Does that make sense? And that's way better than words or sentences. Okay? All right. So that's something you can do to beat all the problems that go with passwords. Here are some things that we do want to do. The two-factor authentication, I know it's a pain when it asks you for 2 or 3 different ways to prove that it's you to get into your account, but it's for your safety. It was suggested you give bogus answers to your security questions, which is why I have a pigeon and an eagle. If your high school mascot was an eagle, because I really don't know anyone whose high school mascot was a pigeon, but if your high school mascot was an eagle, can you say it was a pigeon? Bogus answer on a security question. What's the problem? Remembering what you lied about. I had some security questions come up the other day. It was something I had set up many years ago for the first time I needed to answer the security questions. If I had lied, I would have been clueless. So thankfully, I did know the answers to my questions. Cheesecake is still my favorite food. And but if I had lied, 8 years ago when I set up these questions, I would have been in trouble. But it is a way to go about an extra layer of security for your accounts. Lie on your security questions. Scrubbing your online presence, cleaning up your Facebook, getting out of SPOCO, limiting your Google activity, all those kinds of things, and limiting all your public activity which shows up on Google, but that's hard to do these days. And then here's another trick, which is to use a different email, a second email, for your password recoveries. So have you ever forgotten your password? And you say, "Send me my password," and it comes into your primary email because that's the only email you have, or that's how you set it up. Well, if someone has hacked into your email, they can reset all your passwords because all the passwords are going to come right into what they've just hacked into. Did that make sense? So some people do a second email. There are tons of free emails out there. Or you could even use the same, if you use Gmail, use another Gmail account, but have it go to a different place so that when you do a password reset, it doesn't come into your main account.
Don't use Yahoo.
Don't use Yahoo. Okay, so I try not to slam, but I'm going to say if I see Hotmail or Yahoo or AOL, I'm going to assume you're not as savvy and are more prone to hacking risks. Yes, there are some other just fine places to go. And does anybody use a password manager? All right, I found this interesting too. Do you know that most of us now, we have about 150 passwords? Okay, so I'm running through my spreadsheet. I'm going, I don't think I'm at 150. But if I throw in my work ones, I probably am pretty close to 100 different passwords. Okay? Millennials who are known for being out there doing a bazillion things have a lot of passwords. They're anticipating we'll have 300 passwords before too long, because we need a password for everything. We have to log in. The only way we can get information is online now, so it just doesn't matter. We need to set up a password again. So we have so many of them. One of the tools you can use is called a password manager. The concept here is that it's an app, a program that stores all your passwords. You remember one password, and it gets you into the program where all your others are stored. Okay? There's a couple out there called LastPass and one called Keeper that have been recommended to me. The question comes up, aren't those a target for hacking? You betcha. But the fact is that, so again, my security expert, I go to my security people, and she uses Keeper. She loves it. Right, so theoretically, they are uber concerned about protecting. They also can create passwords for you that are nonsense. You don't even know what the password is. So it's creating the password for you. So just a variety of reasons. Do your research. Look into a password manager if you're concerned about having too many passwords floating around for you to manage. So that's a password manager. I'm going to suggest that if you are shopping online, you pay with a credit card, not a debit card. There's some extra safety features, some dispute abilities that go with that. It is strongly encouraged by the experts to avoid third-party payment systems such as PayPal. I honestly cannot tell you the exact reasoning behind that, but I will tell you that every security expert says don't use PayPal. So I'll let you do that research and figure out exactly why they're saying that, but that's what they're saying. It is suggested
Sometimes there's no
there was no
other
other
way
choice, right?
except going through.
Or sending a check, which is even worse, that kind of thing. So just within reason, if at all possible. And you know, often you can do like a credit card as opposed to actual PayPal account. And so that would be better. Yeah, so PayPal may have been the processor on that. So again, it's tricky to avoid. There are some times where PayPal is a better solution than the alternative, but I'm just telling you what the experts say, which is, if at all possible, avoid it. We do encourage you to review your statements. A, to know where you stand, but B, sometimes some small amount comes through and it's a test to see if that account is active, to see if you noticed, and then they're going to make a bigger withdrawal. Okay, so that's something to be watching for. Does everyone know that when you are ready to put sensitive information, such as a social or a credit card number, the URL is going to change, and there's going to be a security S that appears. So have you seen this? If I'm shopping at a store like Macy's, so block this part out, and it would say HTTP blah blah Macy's, and I'm looking at cute shoes, okay? And then I find the shoes I want and I put them in my cart and I'm ready to pay. When I'm going to the cart and I'm ready to pay, the website should change to this. It should now have an S. And that means it's been encrypted and it's a security level and you can add your credit card information. Okay? Watch for the S. Sometimes there's a padlock. Sometimes the bar turns green. But that S is critical. And that S means now that there's an encryption layer and it's safe. So I can look at shoes all day long, but when I'm ready to buy and put in my card number, look for the S. So a couple of things that you're referencing there. One is, so the big question is, how often should I change passwords? The answer is, like most things, it depends. But I don't have a particular timetable that I suggest. What I would do is, and then there was a comment also about random generators. So random generators can create passwords, but they also, you mentioned the Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
You can do a random thing there where it does a random sort or a random number pick, and that can help you create things that are nonsensical. So that's a great tip. But as far as frequency, if you're very active, if you're in a high-risk group, then I would change passwords more often than if you're not in a high-risk group and not very active online and that kind of thing. So kind of depends. We do suggest you get your credit report. That's on the handout as well, where to get your credit reports. I'm going to challenge you that, do you need to be putting your card information out there all the time? Maybe carry a $20 bill. And instead of spending $4 on the old credit or debit card, just use a little cash and minimize the risk of having that information out there all the time. I do have some other resources for you. There are, the Federal Trade Commission sites actually are pretty good, full of helpful information. It's updated, it's current. The scam trackers, Better Business Bureau, you can sign up for alerts from them to learn what's going on in our area regarding current scams. Attorney General's office has some, again, some local fraud information. There are a ton of things here all about how to find other updated information, resources, read it through, pick out what's good for you.